Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and I'm here with Amir.
Hello.
Which is one of the guys that we briefly had a look at PAX. I promise you guys a follow-up to that board game, and we are finally here doing it.
This game actually, this is really, really exciting. So it's kind of board game meets war game. It is very much all tiles and stuff though. There's no miniatures involved in this. Apparently it was asked that quite a few times over the weekend. But it has very much an Age of Empires or StarCraft or Warcraft type feel. It's very, very real-time strategy, and it works really, really nicely.
Amir, you want to introduce yourself, kind of speak a little bit about what it is you're actually... The board game you're actually making?
Yeah, sure. So I'm creating this board game. I started like 2 years and a half ago. Is a really good combination between a war game and a board game. Since it's actually a board game, you sit down on the table and you open the box, set up, and start to play. Like every normal board game, but the concept is a war game from a management perspective, because you have a lot of different units with different characteristics to take care of and take control. This game, it takes pretty much 1 hour, 2 hours for complete a game. I hope it's gonna be released next year's. Yeah, exactly. If everything is following the plan. But yeah, it could slide in the start of the 2024. Let's see how it goes. We have few components that needs to be finished. They're not finished yet, but the gameplay is solid. But yeah, after that, we're there. It's nearly done.
I was coming around your table quite frequently over those last few days, just to kind of watch people's reactions and stuff. I think the biggest thing most people was taking away from it, at least initially, was obviously the artwork, because it was very, very pretty. Now, when you say war game, the inspiration, not inspiration, the way it felt to me was very much Age of Empires, your original Warcraft, StarCraft. It is in a fantasy world, but those sort of RTS type games.
100%, yes. My knowledge pretty much is coming from RTS. So we're talking about StarCraft, Age of Empires. One of my most favorite video games was Heroes of Might and Magic. Another big title. I started to play video games when I was like 9, 8 probably. With my brother's dad. Now he's a really good informatic engineer, and he actually brought me really, really young in the video games world. And I remember we used to play StarCraft 1 in the 99, 2000 with really two not really efficient computers connected by one single LAN cable. And yeah, that was my experience. This is where my experience started. My board game is actually a reflection of these games. It's a RTS but on a turn base, so it's a board game. This is what I've been trying to do. There is a lot of StarCraft. There is a lot of Heroes of Might and Magic. There is a lot of these kind of games. Civilization, Alpha Centauri. These video games, and obviously there is also components from other board games. I really appreciate
everything's been done before.
Obviously. When it's really difficult to create something really innovative and unique. So what you see now is on the market is always like some things that you have seen before with just few tweaks for make it different, change few names. This is my perspective. So create something unique now becomes really, really
all you got to do is how many board games are out there that have essentially stripped Zombicide out and then just put their own skin on.
Obviously.
And look, there's nothing wrong with that. There is you can make. I mean, they've done it themselves.
Yeah,
But you can make a lot of money. Monopoly has done it for years, and Monopoly is a terrible game.
Absolutely, I agree on that. Absolutely, I agree.
It does have fans. I don't quite get it why, but it does.
I actually met a girl a few days ago, a friend of mine. She does tournament of Monopoly, and did the World Championship of Monopoly.
Didn't even know they had championships.
I didn't know too, but I'm surprised because it's basically the 90% of the game is based on luck. So I don't understand how these games work in a competitive tournament.
I know that there are certain properties that you have a bigger chance of landing on. So if you manage to get those...
I wasn't aware of it.
Because everybody always tries to get like Mayfair and stuff because they're worth the most.
Yeah.
But you're better off getting the ones where there's more things to land on and stuff. That's all I know.
That's it. My knowledge was
that,
actually...
and apparently everybody plays it wrong.
Cool. But yeah, this is interesting. What instead I've been trying to do in my game is try to reduce the randomness as much as I can, because I can see players require these things. They start to hate randomness because they want to put in game their skills and a better understanding of the game. So
I think the elements of randomness can be good, but I think the problem with randomness is it starts to feel like the game's playing you rather than you're playing the game.
Agree.
Like you're just there moving the pieces and the game does everything else.
Yeah, correct.
I'm biased because dice hate me. With a CV
I understand the feeling, yeah. Yeah.
When you started making your game, obviously the world that you've based it on is of your own. It's inspired by things, but it's of your own making.
So I've been working on the game only for 2 years and a half, but the story behind, the world behind, is actually a story that I've been writing for 11 years now.
Did it start as like D&D type stuff, or just legit story?
Just legit story. I'm actually trying to write a book, but my writing skills are terrible. So this is the reason why it's been there for 11 years.
At least you're doing something and not just talking about doing something.
Oh my god, yeah. I actually have some things, but I'm too scared to complete it. It's some things that I'm working on it. I have more to work on my feelings and my mindset instead of actually do it. But yeah. The world behind is really complex, and there is a lot of stuff, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm actually feeling lucky that I find a way to do some things with it, because I could see that my stories writing skills were not actually taking place, so I actually created a board game with it. And the story that's gonna be in the game is something that happened 10-12 years before the main story. So it's gonna be still a part of my world and my story and my storyline. But yeah.
Nice. When you started putting the game together, was RTS always the direction that it was going to go, or did that kind of come later?
No, it actually was more RTS before. It's always been RTS, and before was really RTS style. There was no randomness before. And I saw that I understood that actually in board game, as you said before, a bit of randomness is not just good. From my perspective, it's also essential in board games, because breaks that perfect balance between function of players or everything.
I think the problem with a game that is purely based on skill, sometimes it gets to a point where you feel like you're just playing to lose, like you don't actually have a chance to do anything about that.
True.
Sometimes, if it's all based on purely on skill, the person that's learning the game, or if you're playing against somebody that's better than you, you can start feeling like,
100%.
I have no chance in this,
100%.
why am I bothering?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we think that way anyway.
True.
So, RTS-wise, the thing that stood out to me was the skill tree, which, from a board game perspective, I haven't really seen anybody else do. I mean, there probably are some out there that have.
Yeah.
Was getting that together difficult? Because dice and stuff is one thing. Board placement is, you're picking where you're going and stuff. Like, everybody's seen what a board game looks like.
Mm-hmm.
getting the skill tree to work in a board game, was that difficult or?
It's been complicated actually, because the first prototype had only pages. Every player has a book with all the tech tree where you can go through and see the price and just tick it. But obviously it was not working. Then the idea of creating a deck resolved that issue, and now we have a tech tree in a deck, and players just draw cards that are numbered, and the deck is never shuffled because you know exactly where you're going. You have a card that brings you to another card that brings you to another card. I always loved the concept of tech tree in video games. The idea of developing new technologies and, you know, expand what you're doing. And what I'm really proud of is that my tech tree is not always the same, because you have multiple choice based on the game how it's going. So you can actually change the things that you're doing and upgrade your units in different ways. So it's been complicated, but I think it's really elaborated, and I hope people's gonna enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was Dark Elves and Orcs that we were playing.
So we were playing the Beast, that actually a combination of Orcs, Goblins, Centaur, Harpy, Cyclops. Is more a huge community of different races. And the other one was kind of Dark Elf, is actually a specific.
Because I kept on calling it undead.
No, they're called Atari, and is a unique civilization of my world. That actually I'm really happy with the job that the illustrator is doing, because it actually represents what I've been imagining it for years in a really good way. So I'm actually really happy.
How did you make that connection? By chance or?
No, actually, it's a contact from my graphic designer. That is Alex Winter from the TGDA. He passed me this contact. They've been working together before, and we had a little chat. I explained the project. He was really excited about it, so he sat through the way, and he's doing a great job.
So the board game itself, it's very much board game, and I suspect you know where I'm leading with this, but so it's very much board game. You've got tokens, you've got cards. The thing that you don't have, and the thing that I know that you constantly got asked about over PAX, is miniatures. That's a deliberate choice. Now, obviously, I know a lot of you guys are going to be thinking, what? Because miniatures is everything, right? But it's not really. Now, you've deliberately chose not to go in that direction because you felt it didn't suit the game.
No, it didn't. For a very simple reason. Is about space on the table. So what a single player has to manage during the game is an amount of units and a diversification of units that usually you don't find in games. So having miniature for every single of them is just overwhelming.
Also, it wouldn't actually add anything to the game.
Oh, no, absolutely.
No, all it would, apart from an expense, on something you could make money from, maybe.
Oh, 100%.
But
look,
if it's just there to be expensive, it's also, for it to work on the table, they would have to be tiny. They would have to be maybe this big.
We're talking about really small size. Because the map is what it is, and the amount of token that you have to manage is absurd. So, and you need also to identify them during the game. But this is not just the point. I mean, every civilization, and there are 4 in the game. You have seen only 2, unfortunately. There are 4 in the game, in the base game, because then there are 3, 4 more coming up. Every civilization has a unique set of 7 different units. That means 7 different miniatures for civilization. We are talking about 28 minis, and every single minis needs 6-7 copies. So when we're talking about minis and we start to count this stuff, we see that a game that already costs $120 is gonna jump on $300 just
easily,
because we're including a set of minis that is ridiculous.
And it's a set of minis that, again, isn't actually going to add anything to the game aesthetically.
Absolutely not.
It would be instead of the artwork. So you would be losing, in my eyes at least, you'd be losing something. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love minis.
Yeah, me too.
But not everything needs to have them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think to some extent Kickstarter has trained people to expect them now
Yeah,
at this stage.
yeah, 100%. Obviously, I'm aware that there is a market that include people that are buying game just because they have minis.
Yeah.
Because minis, you can reuse them in different games, especially when you're doing D&D campaign. So they are really useful tool. But I don't wanna spend too many money, because actually making mini, it's really expensive.
Very expensive.
Only to create the sample of one single mini costs like $1,500
Easily.
and for 28 minis means I have to spend $40,000 $40,000 just for make these games. That's obviously doesn't make sense for me.
I mean, hypothetically, if this goes off and becomes very successful,
I hope so.
maybe you could do that
100%. If I have to,
you've already got other races that are being introduced later, which at least some of those are obviously expansion material.
Exactly.
In theory, new maps and so forth can come at some stage.
Yeah.
So
And
there's
also,
life in this later that you can do that.
Yeah. I've been also asking about a single player mode.
Yeah.
And obviously it's going to be a work in progress soon.
Yeah.
Soon I finish this campaign.
Because from memory, that's something you only started, the single player only started this year, right?
I haven't started to work on it.
Okay.
I
remembered you mentioned that at PAX.
Yes, because people have been asking me at PAX.
Yeah.
What about if I want to play it by myself? Correct. This is a fair question. So, and it's not complicated for me to do it. I've been working with balancing for the last 2 years, and now find myself to balance another civilization just for a single player mod is not gonna, I don't see it as a problem. I can do that. And
I mean, the other answer to that would be, well, you're playing against yourself, but that's not fun.
yeah. Yeah, well, people find fun, but you know, so it's something that I've been asked, and if people ask, I can make it. It's not complicated things to do.
And single player modes in board games is legitimately a selling point at this stage. It has been since the pandemic.
Absolutely.
I mean, that certainly brought it on.
Yeah.
It was kind of starting to show up before then, but I think the pandemic's what really brought that out.
100%. 100%.
And some people got very, very lucky with that.
Yeah, true.
They just happened to have been working on things with that in mind.
Yeah.
That hit the market at the right time.
Yeah. True.
So.
True.
I've said this before, like, I'm a very big fan of what you've been getting done with the artwork and the look of the game.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed for next year. Obviously, we don't know when next year at this stage.
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram as a Naraterra game. They can find me on Facebook. They can find me on BakerKit, on Kickstarter. I'm pretty much everywhere. On Twitter. So, yeah.
Yep. I'll put the links in the show notes and everything on screen. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You've made it through to the end of another video. Your next mission is to hit subscribe and comment down below. If you'd like to reach out to the team, consider doing that, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Consider subscribing to our Patreon. For only $2 a month, you get early access to almost every single video that we do. Our most active social media is facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's where you'll find everything first. There's also a Discord. There's an invite on screen right now. If you type that in, it'll give you instant access. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. It's not the most active, but it's something we're trying to use more all the time. Come and check out Jason the Bruce at Twitch. He does both video game and hobby content. And of course, without question, play more games.
It's been a pleasure.
I don't know how good the camera's going to be, but the audio should be fine.